Hello, it is Sunday the 19th of May. We're heading into Asian trading on the 20th of May. And this is one of those weeks where there's quite a lot of fundamental news coming up for crypto this week, crypto assets that could move the market. Normally I say in crypto, the only thing that price drives the bus really, and if it's going up, then that's all the fundamental kind of news you need to know. But this week is a little bit different. We have got the Ripple lawsuits back in court, wrapping up soon, and we have got the deadline for the Ethereum ETF application. So we'll see. Let's take a look at what's happening with those. But first, let's take a look at Bitcoin and where we are with Bitcoin. So we have on the daily, we have had a really nice rally since this low on May the 10th. And we have, I think, where we made a higher low, and I think we have made 5 waves up here, which usually means in a trending market that you are likely to pull back to the bottom of the previous wave 4. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The most likely place we pull back to is the bottom of this wave 4. Sometimes we do more than that. We come back into the middle of 50%. But that's what we're looking for. Also, because this bigger correction that began in March was a big 3-wave equal measured move in Bitcoin. If we put our fib retrace levels from the high that we made in March to the low that we made at the end of April, when you have a kind of a 3-wave move like that you think is a correction, especially if it's chopping and overlapping like this, I tend to put the fib retrace levels over both swings and see if the market reacts to them. And we can see pretty clearly, if we do that from this high to the low, that this 236 fib was support and resistance. This 38.2 certainly was support and resistance. And this 50% was very sharp, resistance and support. So no surprise that here we are reversing at this 61.8 level. So because of these fib levels, that also means that this 50% fib level in the middle here becomes support at 65,000. And we can also say when you reverse to the 61.8 fib level, very often you get into a bit of a zone here between the 61.8 and 38.2. They call it the golden ratio zone. For me, it's the classic diddle in the middle. In between the 61.8 and 38.2, you can really go sideways. So if we were to lose this 65,000, we're likely to drop down to 63,000. And likewise, if we bounce from there, this 65,000 level in the middle, which is support and resistance, could become resistance. So this is a bit of zone, and you could have seen it. Sometimes, you'll see bigger corrections going sideways in this zone. So we're in that zone in the middle here in Bitcoin. For me though, I think I'm looking for this 65,000 level because it's also the daily 50 moving average, which is a big deal for me. I'm looking for this to be support. I'm looking for 3-wave correction back to 65,000 and then a move higher back up to that 70,000 level and towards that kind of equal swing mode. So if I look at this on lower time frames, like we've already seen one swing lower here on the hourly, I'm looking for a bounce and then another swing lower, and I'm looking for 65,000. If you're looking for a pullback buy level, that's a really good place to be looking for it. Okay, so what is happening with ETH? Well, this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have the deadlines for the SEC to announce whether or not they approve the first Ethereum ETF, spot Ethereum ETFs. And so clearly most of the market doesn't think it's going to happen. I don't think I've ever seen for ETH the sentiment so low, and it really, really is low. And pretty much everyone on crypto Twitter has decided that the chances of this ETF being approved is, like 10% or less. I think it's probably somewhere between 0 and 25%. The US government's kind of zeal for suing everybody in the crypto space is pretty unabated. They're suing pretty much every legitimate institution there is out there: Uniswap, Coinbase, Consensus. And next week as well, we have the Ripple lawsuit back in court as well. And that's quite an issue because because the issue in that, of course, is Ripple a security. So I have to say that with all the sentiment this low for ETH, I kind of lean towards, I think if it doesn't get approved, nobody's going to be surprised. So if you're thinking about a short position in ETH, I don't think there's any mileage in it. I don't think there's any mileage in my puts thinking it's going to go down, because I think it's pretty much priced in that it's not going to happen, which means that the more better surprise is likely to be that there's a less than zero, let's put it this way, it's not zero chance that it gets approved. And so it's a little bit like having a lottery ticket if you have some ETH. ETH, there's a lot of naysayers, but ETH isn't a terrible asset, and an awful lot of chains are on Ethereum. You could say, I read 41% of the stuff on Solana is meme coins. I know meme coins are wildly popular, and there's no risk of any meme coin ever being called a security. So, you can buy the. To be honest, you don't need technical analysis for these meme coins either, because there's no chance anyone's ever going to call a meme coin a security. So I think if I was going to bet against a surprise, because there's two surprises that can happen with this ETH ETF decision, right? The surprise would be that they approve it because nobody's expecting it, in which case, we could see it really bounce well. The downside surprise is that they could not approve it, but they could also say, and by the way, it's a security, especially because there's so much going on and there's so much zeal for shutting down crypto. And, that would be pretty tough if they say that, especially with everything that's going on with the SEC and Ripple this week. And I don't think there's a zero chance. There's a great, it's not no chance that they won't do that either. So this all means that there is quite a chance of some volatility. For me, technically, when I look at ETH Bitcoin and this sentiment, we're very close to me to a place where I would want to be buying ETH against Bitcoin. So I don't want to say what the charts say. When I look at these weekly moving averages, we're underneath, if we take everything off, we're underneath these weekly moving averages. This is pretty bearish. We've been rejected by these weekly moving averages. And technically, on every time from here on the weekly down, we're in a downtrend. But as you know, I'm a zigzag girl. I'm always looking at equal measured moves. And if I put them on and I measure from this high to this low, here we are sideways at this equal measured move. And we're also at this 61.8 fib level. And just as we talked about with Bitcoin, you put your fibs on both swings, or in fact, I've got it from this low to this high, which is the big swing we're inside of. And all of these other fib levels have had a really interesting reaction. This 50% was really sharp. This 38.2 was support, then resistance. And so here we are very close to this 61.8 level. Now, the thing with 618 fib levels is they can be very messy. And by that, I mean, we could dip quite a way underneath it and still recover this level and it still be valid. So like if you're thinking, oh, that's the exact number it's got to turn at, that isn't the case here. But for me, in terms of support and resistance, if I look left, this 0.043 zone in ETH against Bitcoin is a really, really interesting support level. So does ETH dollar, and so it could be that we start to see ETH outperform Bitcoin, and the ETH ETF being approved would be quite an interesting place for that to happen. Now, if we take a look at ETH against the dollar, you can see we are underperforming Bitcoin. We're not up at the highs, and we've done a kind of big fib pattern here. If I look at these weekly moving averages and we take these fib levels off, because for me, moving averages are really important trend support. And let's just go back to regular candles. You can see that we are sideways at this weekly 20 moving average, which has been pretty good support and resistance previously in Ethereum. And if I measure from these lows to highs like this, You can see all the way back to the low that we made in 2022. We're sideways at this 38.2 fib level. We validated this 236 fib at 3,300 by being support and then resistance. And so 28.64 is pretty key support. We have been testing it now for 6 weeks. Every time we've dipped into it, we found buyers and bounced. So it is really important, valid support. And it's clear that if we close underneath it, underneath 28.64, we're likely to come back one more step lower to this 50% at 24.85. So, you know, for me, this is kind of ideal buy zone, ideal place that I would be looking to buy. If we lose it, I certainly wouldn't be panicking. I'd be stalking the opportunity. I think there's really good support and resistance here, and that, you know, it wouldn't be a terrible, you know, if we brought this back towards the daily, weekly 200 moving average and down 2100, 2400. I think that at some point, you know, this all gets resolved. And I really do like the fact that the sentiment is such, it feels like it's at a real cyclical low for ETH. And there are a lot of chains on ETH, you know, that are proper blockchains, not just meme coins. So I don't think it has no value. So I think it's potentially a buying opportunity. So the key day to watch out for is Wednesday. By Wednesday, that's the deadline for the SEC to let us know, and let's see. So what happens before then? Well, on the 20th, we have the Ripple back in court. So Ripple have asked the court to not hide, I can't remember the words, but they want part of the SEC have asked for information, and Ripple have asked for it to be sealed, and the information is to do with what discounts were given to it on Ripple sales to major buyers. And we're getting very close. I think we're within 2 weeks of the end of this lawsuit, so we're getting very close to the end of it. Now, the SEC are opposing Ripple's request to seal this information. They want it to be public data. I think if Ripple win that little bit and it's not released, that could be good for the Ripple price, but we're getting pretty close to 2 weeks. You know, even if I think we could see a little bit of a bounce in the price if that happens. For me, technically, in Ripple, when I look at this, I really don't like how we're in a bit of a chop zone in terms of support and resistance. We have been trading sideways underneath all these weekly moving averages in a very tight range between 0.5 and 0.55 for the last 6 weeks. Now, are we likely to break out of this range? And if we do, where are we likely to drop down to? And where is the buy likely to be? I think if Ripple win this on Monday with this ceiling, that we might get a little bit of a bounce, but I really can't see this being bullish unless we get back above these moving averages. And here in the middle of this range, these moving averages, these are the real kind of don't diddle in the middle zone. So when I measure from this high to this low here and project it from here, I always said if we were going to do one of those 3-wave corrections, the ideal support was at 0.425. And that's really interesting because when we dipped down in April, that's exactly where the buyers were waiting, at this measured move level, 0.425. Now, this was one of those very spiky bounces, and I have a theory that, you know, these spike levels very often get retested. And if we were to do that in Ripple, or if this week with what's going on with this lawsuit, we get a dip down to 0.425, and if you're looking to buy some, this would be the kind of ideal place to buy. Again, this is like, you know, the ETF thing. This thing with Ripple is a lottery ticket, really, that they're going to win and that they are going to win and not be found to be a security. Now, Brad Garlinghouse, I know, has said that Ripple will be fine, even if they say he is a security. They've got lots of customers abroad. Ripple's not going to go anywhere, but you know, Ripple winning and being listed again on US exchanges would be very positive for the Ripple price. So not only that, but it takes the risk away from all of these other all of these other assets being declared a security. If I can't see the SEC pursuing a case against all of them, if Ripple win, you know, they've thrown so much time and money at it. So in Ripple, watch out for news over the next couple of weeks. It starts on Monday, and 0.425 is a really important support level. It's one of those point levels where, to be honest, if we get underneath it and get stuck underneath it, the measured move support in Ripple then becomes at 0.22, 50% of where we are now. So am I predicting we go down there? Absolutely not. This is trading sideways, and for me 0.425 is really, really good support. So I'm looking for that to hold on a retest. First time anyway. So just be careful this week. Good luck. Let me know if there's anything you're looking at that you'd like.